The aim of this video is to show you how you can adapt the WASH KAP standard form to integrate other languages. The standard version has French and English, but you can add whatever language is necessary in your local context. We definitely recommend the form be translated to the languages most used in your context. So, for example, if you look here at a phone, and you wanted Bangla to be available, you would need to set it up in the mobile template. So if you open the mobile template, you will need to then focus to set up that translation on the three tabs: Survey, Choices, and Settings. The Survey tab, as a reminder, is the one where all of your questions are listed. The Choices tab is where all of your options of answers are listed. The Settings tab has general settings, including what default language you want your form to be in. In the standard one, you see that there are columns that specify English as label, as hint, and you see that it's the same for French. And also, beyond the labels and hints, you see that you have a required message. So this is the message that appears when somebody doesn't answer a mandatory question. And also a constraint message. So this is when the answer that's filled in for a given question does not respect what you want it to be. So for example, the number you have typed is outside the expected range. So if you wanted to add a third language, you would just need to add wherever you want in this table new columns corresponding to each of the languages. But let's take, for example, a case where you do not need French and where you just want to replace the French columns with Bangla, for example. So all I need to do is replace the word français by Bangla. Make sure that you keep the twice two dots that are here, that are a marker to help Kobo understand what you are talking about. And every time I have French, I replace it by Bangla. And let me hide all the columns I do not need. And there you go. I can do the same thing in the Choices tab here. And if I wanted Bangla to be my default language, I could write Bangla here instead of English, which means that the form would actually open up in Bangla rather than in English. So now that I have done this, the most important part of the work remains. It's actually doing those translations. So you can do it whichever way you want. Also plan in double translation if you want somebody to check that the Bangla notions have been well understood by getting them to retranslate to English and seeing that it really corresponds to what you expect. But to actually do those translations and make sure that you don't forget anything, a good way of going about it is here, for example, filtering in all of the label column lines to make sure that you only have the cells that you need to fill. And then you start translating. You can even remove all the French there. And then you can use here whatever translation method you want. You could also do it through Google Translation Online and then input it here, or else use translation formulas here in your form that you then recheck to make sure that the notions are correct. So you would need to do that first for the label. Then once this is finished, you make them all appear again. There. And then do the same thing with the hint by why not filtering the English column and then modifying all of the hints, etc., etc. So this would give you as a result something like this that you see for a Bangla version of your form. And without forgetting, of course, to do it also here in the Choices tab for the options of answers. There is just one thing to keep in mind as you work, is that some of the labels can sometimes reference a previous answer. So to be able to see which ones we're talking of, you would just need to add here $1 in the filter of the label column, which means that it will filter to all the columns, to all the lines that at one point refer to a previous variable. So in this particular case, what's the type of container number, cont number? The cont number is actually the name of the variable that references what's container it is. So it means that on the mobile you would see what is the type of container number 2, for example. And you just need to make sure that in your translation you really keep this part of the reference as it is, the dollar, brace, and the name of the variable. Otherwise the tool would not recognize it as it should. Therefore you just write the label in Bangla before and then add this precisely as it is. If you're translating to a language that is from right to left, make sure that you really switch the syntax for it also to be from right to left by adding the dollar after the variable name. As a summary, you need to add the label, hint, constraint message, required message columns for your new language in the survey tab. Obviously also do it in your choices tab for the label of options. Be careful to keep the parts of text that are in XLS form syntax the same as it is. And finally, you should specify in your settings tab what is your default language.